and you'd rather see your axes nice and perpendicular with each other, you might want to grab a ruler from over there. That does not mean play with a helicopter. If you cannot control playing with it like a helicopter, just don't get one. Sounds like what? The fact that I teach middle school and I know what happens when you give kids an object that has like holes in it and can spin, or an object that's flexible, and that's why so many of my rulers are broken. So, yes, because it was already broken, and I'm tired of people bending the ruler waiting to see when will it break. They break easy. So, please, like, I just hope none of it got in my coffee. Did anyone watch if any of it got in my coffee? Well, we'll find out at the bottom of the cup, I guess. I'm not going to not drink it. I mean, come on, it's just plastic. Okay, you gotta use your teeth as a filter, right? If you're worried about, like when you're camping and bugs get in your tea and you're like, I'm gonna drink it anyway. Use your teeth as a filter. Right. Brenda, you think A is wrong? That's a really bold statement, but it might be that how I copied it over is a typo. Hold up. Like, let's double check, because it could be, when I copy paste stuff over, sometimes the formatting gets lost. So, 124A. This is also why we're talking about 831, because some of us might not realize what these symbols mean. So, there is a huge misconception about absolute value, which are the reason I started making fancy ones. Trust me, when I was 12, I did not put extra effort into making a 7 or making a 1. But eventually, when you do enough practice and you confuse yourself enough, I don't know if it's happened in this class, but like when you write down 5 and then you go back and look at it and it looks like an 8 or vice versa, you start to be like, oh, man, if I wrote a bit cleaner, I would save myself time. Well, this is ironic. I have this twice. So, these vertical bars are absolute value. Who is confident that they know what absolute value does to a number? Colin. But what if you put a positive into it? It stays the same because absolute value, guys, technically, that's still not what absolute value is. It does that. But what is absolute value asking for, Renal? The distance between that number and 0. So absolute value is a function of distance. This is distance to 0. And distance is always positive. You cannot tell somebody go -3 feet. You can say go 3 feet down or go 3 feet south or go 3 feet left. And a lot of times we talk about those numbers like they're negatives, but distance has to be positive. Spencer. Yeah, it's just like gravity and other things like slowing down your acceleration. I don't know. That gets into science and physics. So I don't want to answer a question that's a bit beyond my expertise, but probably. I would think it's probably very similar, like, idea of, like, negative values don't exist in certain situations. Like, there is no negative distance. There's distance the wrong way. Like, I went to the wrong restaurant the other night because my brain malfunctioned like 80 times that day. Well, there's a lot of El Vaqueros in Columbus, so I went to the wrong El Vaquero, but it was south. I went to Olentangy River instead of Riverside, because river was what was in my brain, and I never go to either of those. I go to the LVAC here in Dublin, and that's my normal LVAC, so I was trying to go to a friend's birthday dinner, and yeah, totally goofed it up. So I called them, and I was like, no one's car is in the parking lot. And they're like, you're at the wrong place, bro. Sorry, guys, you gotta be able to laugh at yourself, right? When you make mistakes, that's on the way to getting to the right answer. Physically on the way to getting to the right location in that case. Other questions from 831, because we're still new to functions. B, do not fall into the trap of thinking that with B, this becomes addition, because that is outside of the absolute value, it will subtract away whatever the absolute value of x is, except if we were working backwards here, like we said yesterday, we would plug in the 2 for y and solve it from there. So that's how they got their answer for B there, of plus or minus, like positive or negative 1. Reminder, that's what that symbol means, positive or negative. Check that you wrote your scientific notation values correctly. And guys, if you're copying stuff down right now, like it's kind of obvious, but I don't really care if it makes sense to you. Some of these questions you can look at and be like, oh, that's how that happened. But if it doesn't make sense, that's a problem. Please don't copy it down. Please ask. Lily? Hey, I would love to. I like how you started that by saying hey. You're not good at what? Yeah, record a podcast and you find that out real fast. My friends record a podcast and I would like text them and be like, you know, you said this like 80 times during the podcast. Yeah, I say yo too much. My friends tell me. So this, parenthesis up against a parenthesis, is multiplication, even though there was kind of an awkward space between them. So we will multiply the coefficients with each other. And if you'd like to color code this, which might help your brain, we multiply these, and then we combine our times 10 to those. How do we combine the negative 2 and the negative 8? When they are multiplying, we add. So 8 plus 6, I think this would be 14 times 10 to the negative 10th. But that's not scientific notation. When we move this decimal, we go a spot to the left. So now I'm going to say 1.4. I've done one of these, right? This tells me move your decimal left. I already did one of those. That's how we get times 10 to the negative 9th. Because I already did one of the like bumps it tells me to. Yes, so that we can compare the numbers just by quickly looking at the powers. Because if I give you 1.4 times 10 to the negative 9th, and then I give you 5 times 10 to the 2nd, or something like that, you can quickly be like, oh, negative power versus positive power. You can almost like ignore the number in front. And not saying ignore the number in front, but that's why, so you can quickly compare things. Nevin? Oh, I knew that was going to happen. All right, hold on. So let's make it through the second page. By the way, guys, this was technically supposed to be 2 days worth of homework, which is why I kind of like, but if you don't turn it in today, I'm not going to put this in math. Like, over the weekend, I got enough to do. So I will commit to 831 will not go in math till after Monday, after Tuesday. So if you're not done with it, please don't like stress yourself out or rush to get it done right now. You have advisory AO today, and we'll look at it again on Tuesday if we need. But if in your advisory AO you want to work on math, you can come here. But if you're mastered, we're going to give you a couple other options of stuff to do. I don't have all the answers yet. We have to keep talking at lunch. Our 7th grade team ran out of time, so if you're asking me about AO, I probably don't have the answer. But Jordan, go ahead. Sorry, that's why I pointed at you.
Are we ever going to have FCO?
Yes, I'm bummed that we don't have FCO today. Also, blame 8th grade. They're doing an ELA immersion. Don't actually be mad at 8th grade. But they needed to do an ELA immersion day. Mr. Beck is behind and needed to get in this assignment for quarter 3. It's a whole thing. It's probably the snow day's fault. But if you're mastered and you want to do FCO type stuff, you can, right? If you're mastered, you can probably go to that teacher and be like, yo, can I get the yarn or the bullet journal or the math art? Like, you can probably work on that stuff. Other questions not about AO or FCO from 126 through 129.
Oh,
One.
try 1 on 125.
Which one?
C.
C, same story with the coefficients and then the powers. So 9 divided by 4, kind of annoying. What's 9 divided by 4? It's like 1 point something, or 2 point something. Oh, 2.25, so not terrible. Times then 5 minus 7, negative 2. Yeah. A ton of you, not you, but a ton of 7th graders told me that 5 minus 20 is 15. We got to remember about negatives being very important. That's how an entire bridge collapsed. The engineer forgot a negative.
It's just sort of when we like did the tiles and then you flipped it to the other side. Since the 10 to the second's on the bottom and you just flip it and it becomes a negative on the top.
I mean, sure, if that's how you want to think about it. Because, yeah, I mean, we could put 10 to the second. You could also write this as 2.25 divided by 10 to the second. That's what this really means. But this is not as simple, quote unquote, like what mathematicians say. The scientific notation will let us compare with other scientific notation numbers. Guys, it's all about comparing. That's really what it is, why we do scientific notation. So you can compare like the size of an atom to the size of a molecule, or the size of a neutron to the size of a proton, or like, it's stuff like that where it's tiny numbers. Gus, do you have me worried you're going to poke your eye out? Anna? Sweet, but we want to get through this page first. So anything else up to 129? Are you before 129 or are you after? Last call. Up. I mean, reminder, these are recorded, so if like over the weekend or wherever you're just trying to verify your answers, I'm recording, so. I don't know if I've said this in this class, but kids will sometimes ask me like, why, like you record all the answers, don't you, like, aren't you worried kids are going to go like look at them next year? 1, no one is going to put that much effort in. 2, if somebody wants to put that much effort in, awesome. 3, back in the old days, in the back of the book, back in the old days, good God, I just said that. Back in my day, literally, you'd flip to the back of the book and all the odd answers are in here. But with your CPM book, there are checkpoints. Like, I don't know if you guys realize this, because we should have spent some time looking through the book. There are checkpoints where if you go do, like, so here, simplifying expressions. This is the Math 7 book. There's like a bajillion, 20 problems to try and all of the answers. Right? So, like, it's not like we're trying to hide the answers from you. We want you to know the answer so you know if you did it right or not.
I'm good now.
You're great now, Jade.
I am.
All right. 130, 131, Anna. Yeah, you're still going too fast for us. Questions on 130 to 132. Let's do this page first. Okay, I guess you might want to see the answers.
Probably.
Yeah, yes, please. Ouch, that hurt.
No, so E, it's just, it doesn't look like 69 degrees, so I was very confused and worried.
Notice how, because I make these homeworks for you, even though they're from the textbook, notice how I say, do not use a protractor, it won't help.
I saw that and it still annoyed me.
How things look can be deceiving. When you're given the math, guys, especially if a 7th grader drew it for you, the angles might not be perfect. So, how many degrees are in a straight line all the way around? 180, and that's how we solve the missing angles in E or C and E. So both of these are that 180 relationship. Angles that are opposite each other, what do we call those? Ooh, no, it starts with a V. So like here in D, vertical. What do we call angles that add up to 180? Supplementary. You want to go for the triple? What do you call angles that add up to 90? Complementary. Careful, because you need the pair. The pair is complementary. And guys, like, that comes around in more than just math. Like, in my woodworking, when two things join up nicely to make a 90-degree angle, whether it's 60 and 30 or 45 and 45, like, it's complementary. It's nice. Like, literally, that's, like, if you think about word structure, it looks nice. It is, yeah. Exactly. Well, if that helps you remember it for however long it helps you, then there we go. It not only married some people, it helped you remember some math stuff. Patrick?
I have no idea what I'm doing.
131. Daniela has $210 in the bank.
That's a lot.
Her balance is growing by a rate of $3 each month. Interesting. They use the word rate, but then they give us $3. But rate can be any comparison. Guys, remember, a rate just means a comparison of two numbers. $3 a month. Right? So this rate that they're telling us doesn't have to be a percent. $3 per 1 month. Lori has I'm going to change colors because Lori's a different person. Has $187 in the bank, but her balance is growing by $450 each month. A system of equations. It is Chubby Bunny Kitty.
Oh my.
Yeah, so that was probably just a hurdle that you had to jump over, and now you're likely good. But it'd be 210 plus 3m equal to 187 plus 450
I
m.
just X to be
X.
no, the dollar sign. 'Cause
I would not use that as exponent. You mean variable?
yeah, variable.
Yeah, you also shouldn't do that because the variable represents the number of months. So if your variable is a dollar sign, that is misleading.
Oh, I did X.
That's fine. But I mean, M in my brain makes more sense. You know?
M could be money though.
I
M could also be money.
thought it was I thought they never have the same money because it's like they're never gonna have the exact because like this like it's like the one that we did like on that math.
All right, so I'm really glad we did what we're doing. So, I don't know the answer to this. The answer key says 15 and a third. Here's the problem. We don't know, like, so what this problem is alluding to is not that she's depositing more money, but that interest is causing the money to grow. And interest, we don't know how often they're applying it. So Renal has a really good point. Like, well, if it only happens on the monthly, 15 and a third can't really happen. But what we could say is between 15 and 16, but I want to show you guys something.
Oh,
So in your calculator, if you have one of these, you have all these graphing options that you can play with. And I need to change this to still be a line. So, let's make the one a dotted line. Crap. So if I set up Daniela, and then I set up Lori, I have to use X when I'm using my calculator because my calculator needs X as an input unless I change things. So I am going to switch this over to a dotted line so I can see it differently. But it's also going to graph red. So actually, I could probably leave it as a line since it'll graph red. So then if I go to graph it, it says invalid dimensions, right? So it tells me some information. But what I can do to fix that, and you guys don't have to retain this right now. I'm just showing it for those people with fancy calculators. Like I know Max has one of these, and a few of you guys have these calculators. So check it. When I go to graph, I'm going to actually hit zoom. Okay, second quit because in the error it gets mad. I'm going to zoom, and there's a zoom that says fit. Now, I'm not saying this is always great, but it's normally one that I try first. So I changed my window in Math 2. So to get back to the standard window, I'm actually going to do zoom standard. and try to reset my zoom and see if that helps. What did I do wrong? It's probably just on my Windows bad. So X's, I'm going to take these up to like 30. I'm going to go by 1. My Y. So what's happening is my Y is nowhere close to big enough. I'm going to make my Y go to like 600 and, I don't know, make it go by 25s or something. So all of this is me setting things like we don't have to do in Desmos, but if you have one of these calculators, you can. All right, check. Dimension 99 plots off. Ah, my stat plot is on. That's what's wrong.
I have no idea what you're doing.
I know, it doesn't matter because you shouldn't go that deep in your calculator. But if you go to turn a stat plot on, this impacts your graph. So now that I've turned that off, I know. Give it a second and it will probably show. So then, here, and on Desmos, you can just click, but you guys won't always have Desmos. Check it. There's a button that says Trace. So I'm going to hit the button that says Trace, but actually I'm going to hit second Trace, and it gives me options. I can go to Intersect, and what happens is at the bottom of the screen, see how it says First Curve? It calls everything a curve, even if it's a straight line. So I'm plotting a point on the first curve that looks like it's at the intersection. It's pretty close. Second curve, that's still pretty close. And my guess of where it intersects, that's still pretty close. It does the math for me. The calculator just did Chubby Bunny Kitty, essentially, and found out that after 15 1/3 months, they each have $256. So you could really say between 15 and 16 months, or after 15 1/3, all that matters is that we know how to solve this equation. Now, if you're going to be like Renal and be critical, you can say, well, if it's only monthly, they never actually have the same amount. But in between 15 and 16 months, Lori overtakes Daniela. Yeah, like, because her rate is going faster. At some point, Lori's going to overtake. It's like the rabbit and the hare, or tortoise and the hare. The rabbit and the hare. The tortoise and the hare, where the tortoise is going slow, but eventually overtakes because the rabbit stops. Like, well, I don't know, that's not a great example. But, well, the rabbit starts late, right, and then he goes past the tortoise, and then he takes a break, right? Isn't that how the story's supposed to go? So that's kind of like a system, but now I feel like I'm telling it wrong. Lily? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah to everything you're saying. All right, other questions. I know I still have not taken Anna's question. I keep refusing to do that. So, Anna, what's your question? Because now we're starting to run out of time. So, all of these start with the original ABC. Guys, once you translate, and I think you know this because that's why you did what you did. Once you translate, so 2 units right, 3 units up, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. This, so if I translated C, that new point we would call C prime. So then my first prime, as a result of what I did in part A, this is my first prime shape. A prime, B prime, and math was using prime before Amazon ever did. So then I start again at the original ABC and reflect it across the y-axis. So now this one, and I would probably change colors. C prime. Yeah, sometimes you end up sticking off the graph, which is like kind of on purpose. And actually, hold on just a second. So the really, CPM would have you copying this to graph paper. So you would have more space than this. This goes off the graph because I put this picture in the homework for you, as opposed to you having to put it on graph paper.
It helps.
Lily. You forgot how to dilate from the origin? So, yo, refresher, because if Lily forgets, I'm sure more people forget. From the origin, you count what happens to get there, and then you apply the scale factor to both of those dimensions. So C is at 1, 1. So dilate both of those times 2. C prime will be at 2, 2. All right, we're going dancing. A is at like 4, negative 1. Sorry, I didn't say the negatives here, but I'm just talking distances. So 4 and 1. So then it'll be 8 and 2. So like A prime would be somewhere out here. And then B prime is 4 and 2. So it's going to be 8 and 4. So it's like out here. You are welcome. You probably can. Nevin. 133B. D. This is perfect because a lot of us keep goofing these up. Look at my purple poster up there. Guys, again, if you're complaining about answers, if we don't end up showing the answers long enough, go watch the video. My purple poster up there, cross multiplication is the shortcut. Check it. There's a mathematical principle called the means extremes theorem. You don't need to remember that. But what it states is if I eat a pizza, maybe not the whole pizza, because I guess I should share with my wife, and I'm going to eat half of it, but they probably don't just cut it into halves. If it's Domino's, I know they cut it into eighths. Sorry that mine aren't equal, like they don't look equal. But 1/2 of the pizza is equal to 4/8. And this mathematical principle that comes out of this, you guys might know as the butterfly method. It depends on what your elementary teacher ever called it. But 1 times 8 is equal to 2 times 4. It's cross multiplication. What this is actually called is the means extremes theorem. Means are the middle number, extremes are the first and last number. So, what we do for D, in order to do D, we multiply those by each other and set it equal to these multiplied by each other. So I will write down your first step. Your first step would be 4 times x plus 3 equals 2 times 3x minus 1. And then we chubby bunny kitty. Brenda. Nope. Whether I do 1 times 8 equals 2 times 4 or 2 times 4 equals 1 times 8, it is still true.
Okay, thank you.
Hayden.
The way you highlighted it looks super cool. The equal sign is orange.
Right?
I know, it looks so cool.
See? Use highlighters on your homework. It makes it look cooler. Brenda? How do I turn 10 into a fraction?
10 over 1, right? We would do the same
And then we can cross multiply. Yep. It just doesn't look as nice because how it's set up. Gents in the back, we got questions? Oh, I do have. I was thinking I'm running out of time quicker than I am. I got time. Yo.
You need to do the quiz thing.
What?
No, leave him alone.
What is the quiz thing? I know you want me to sign a paper with DJ Hudcap, but what are you talking about now?
Like for the party.
Oh, I decided I'm going old school. If you have a well, now my note cards are over here, so give me a second. I'll be right back.
Bye.
Bye.
Wait, what party? The D's party.
What party?
Yeah, no. We caught one film in the first time.
Where it's all what party?
All right, if you have a suggestion for our party that is not an ice cream sundae bar, because I think pizza party is kind of like whatever, you get pizza every day. That's not really that monumental anymore. But if you're like, nah, the pizza down there's not that great, we want a pizza party, like you can write that down. Feel free to use those note cards, stick them in the bin, just like it's a homework assignment. I will collect them all, I will sort them over the weekend, look at them. That's not like you voting. I will then take those options and make a poll on Schoology, and then we can actually vote. But like if you know somebody's already written down the option, you don't need to write it down again. But like, you know, my initial gut reaction to what my kids voted on last year is ice cream sundae bar.
How do you spell karaoke?
You could just write empty orchestra.
What?
That's what karaoke means, empty orchestra. Yep.
I don't even know how to spell orchestra.
Eucalyptus.
Yeah, I found that.
You guys know if we have a karaoke party, I'm gonna rickroll you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know.
I didn't
What?
see that one coming out there in Forum.
We're well aware, but honestly,
We should do a what?
I didn't see that one coming.
why are
Yeah.
we going to
A salad bar? We used to, the old, do you guys still have a salad bar in the cafeteria? Well, now everything's changed because all the lunches are like free, but we used to have a salad bar. Hold on, I'm still making sure that there's no plastic in my coffee.
If there's no like, if we do like a karaoke thing, you should just like stop everybody and be like, stop.
Who was it this morning that said something about can't touch this? And all that I thought of was MC Hammer.
I cannot get that music video out of my head with them dancing.
And the giant pants.
Yes, that.
MC Hammer was always known for his giant parachute pants. They're called parachute pants because it looks like you're like wearing a parachute around your ankles.
Wait, if he brings it up, we can-
All right, with your team, discuss.
I wrote my last name. Are you happy?
Well, now we're already quiet. I wonder it. Well, I mean, you can if it's done. No. At that point, it's too fast. Ooh, I can't do that. All right, with your team, discuss. Hey, we can only have fun with it if we can bring it back together. And when it wastes time, it makes me think I shouldn't do it in the future. Discuss A, B, C, D. And if you think they are functions or not based off what we said at the end of class yesterday. Obviously, with A and B, you cannot just say vertical line test. Because A and B aren't graphed for us yet. But with problems like C and D, we probably can. And if you forget what that means, talk with your team about what was the vertical line test, what did we say it takes to be a function or not.
To be able to eat a new burger.
There are some really gross new burgers at McDonald's.
We all have to do is eat a new burger at McDonald's.
We already did D, so we did
Stop making that joke. Stop.
Wait, did we do D already, guys?
Yeah, we already got some.
Hey, is it?
Oh, math art people, I moved your stuff to a folder, by the way.
I thought
Because I about spilled coffee on one of the papers and I felt bad. So I was like, I gotta get these off my desk.
Did there end up not being plastic in the cup?
I don't think so. That hurts in my stomach now.
Okay.
The rulers don't tend to shatter. They break into 4 or 5 pieces.
When you did this and then it broke, I laughed because I thought that was planned. Like that you planned it to break.
I mean, I knew it would if I bent it even a little bit. Because these rulers have already been bent enough. They've been weakened. They have micro fractures, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
This one doesn't break when I bend it.
What's
That's
metal?
Benji.
Wait, so the real question now?
Jordan, imagine you bend that. You're gonna break it though. So you shouldn't.
I think C and D are fairly quick, but A and B, I would encourage you to actually discuss. Actually discuss A and B.
How does A not the D even be a function? It's not even a line.
Yeah, to enforce a muffin tax, bring a muffin to class, I get some.
And why you play that? What's that?
I mean, if you have too many muffins, I will not say no. Well, you need it. I need energy. Yes, you also have.
No.
You draw a vertical line and it hits twice. It fades.
No, we all do real.
I have a classic gorillas. Oh, moment of silence for Harambe. You guys probably don't even know what. Like, that's probably too long ago for you guys now.
No, I remember the girl that was at the Columbus Zoo. The one that was like over 60 years old.
I'm gonna go ahead and move on because otherwise I'll get sad. All right, we're shuffling. It looks like I'm hiding. I don't know. Like, this is almost easier to sit
It's
forward
like,
on.
you're like, I'm going to secretly shuffle these cards.
And stack the deck. No. All right, so I'm not. We'll do one last cut just to
He's just staring at you.
Brenda. No, not you. Cut it. Your card is up. What do you think about A? We only got a few minutes to finish this conversation. What do you think about A?
A is a function.
Why do you say A is a function?
Because if we drew a vertical line, it wouldn't hit through 2 points on the
In
graph.
A? Well, A's not graphed.
Yes.
So what do you
But
mean?
if I imagine the graph, if on the X line there's no repeating. Yeah. Yeah, but doesn't also be like not horizontal, just vertical. Because that would make it so that parabola should be.
What we said yesterday is every input has exactly one output. Chill. Put it away if you can. So, as long as every X that we see only goes to a single Y, are any of my X's repeated? No. So, every X that I see pairs up to only a single Y. Now, some of you were probably looking at, wait a minute, I see -3 twice, but that's okay. Because that means that -3 gets hit by two different, X's, but not that the same X goes to two different Y's. This is where it's confusing.
What's the rule?
What do you mean, what's the rule? Oh, then we could define a rule, but we don't really care because what we're trying to say is it a function? Yes, every X maps to a single Y. But a Y can be used twice. Or as many times as once. Guys, imagine, like somebody just brought up, imagine you graph a horizontal line. Would this pass the vertical line test? Yes. But if the Y value here is 5, this would be 1, 5, right? There'd be like a 5, 5. There'd be a 10, 5. Like, that output is going to get used over and over and over again, but it is a function.
Because it's not straight up vertical.
Because it doesn't fail the vertical line test. But yeah, if you graph a vertical line, that is not a function. All right, so A checks out. Ba-boom. B, Patrick, what do you think?
I'm still doing it, but from what I can tell, it isn't valid.
It is or is not?
It's not. That's just a random.
Is not? Why do you think that?
It's a random
It's
guess.
a random guess. Aiden, do you have more than a random guess on that one?
I agree.
Why?
Because X has, in X, there's 2 twice, and it has 2 different Y's.
The same input gets used for 2 different outputs. The same input. The same input.
I agree. I was just like,
No, I'm gonna draw it, which is is why I'm saying it again. So at an input of 2, we had an output of -8, and we had an output of +9. This would fail the vertical line test. Because the same input gets used for 2 different outputs. That would fail.
Can I do D?
No, and especially not, I mean, I'm using cards. Connor, what about C?
C.
It would not pass, therefore it is not a function. Maddie, what about D? It's a little hard to see from back there. What do you think? Do you think it passes the vertical line test or no? It's tough to see, but I can cheat because I've got vertical lines here. So if I move my vertical line across this, do I ever hit 2 points at the same time?
No.
No. So that means it passes, and it is a function.
Yay.
What about E, Lily? Ooh, you guys couldn't see E, so this one's going to be real tough to be able to do fast, but hold on. Everybody take 10 seconds. Look at E. But wait, Lily, the same input is used twice. If you're not Lily, don't talk.
It has the same output.
It's got the same output both times, so that's fine. It still only goes to one output. Even though we use it twice, it doesn't change.
Wait, what about?
Can 2 inputs share an output?
Yes.
Yes, because we just said if we had a horizontal section, 2 different inputs would share the same output. Thank you for bringing that up. It's a good thing for us to be reminded about. That was planned. Jordan and I planned that earlier.
I think George just wanted to touch his phone.
And then F, what do you think? Is it a function?
Yes.
Yeah. It looks weird. Hold up. It looks weird in the middle, but it passes, guys. This is a modified sine wave. Yeah, because I think sine hits there. So sine, cosine, like they do the wave, right? Like literally they do the wave. That's all the time I got. Have a wonderful weekend.
It looks like you're vacuuming out the grass.
Yeah.
It looks like you're vacuuming.
Sure. Yeah, if it's done, you can turn it in. Thanks. Oh yeah. Have fun with Monday.
Hey, Mr. Watson, I have a note for you that you can tell on Monday. Or
Nice.
Tuesday.
Which composer got sick?
Which composer got sick?
Yes.
Well, didn't a few of them die from things? Because like that
Yeah.
was, I mean, so that's like, bummer. But wait, okay, so which composer got sick?
This composer actually
Possibly died because of
What? Chopin? Who?
Tchaikovsky.
Oh. Because the actual name is Tchaikovsky, right? I like it though. Goodbye, guys. Have a great weekend. Sing the what?